Good morning and welcome to Coffee with Rich. All right, I got a great show for you this morning. We're going to be joined by former MARSOC operator Justin Carroll and one of my BFFs. And before I bring Justin on, let me make sure that I'm all set up. I just got the notification that we are live. That's pretty cool. Let's see. All right, looks like we got 10 folks joining us already. That's pretty awesome. Okay, good morning to the 13 folks that are joining us live. Please like and share. I got a real good show for you this morning. If you got some coffee, please sip away. I've almost crushed mine this morning. Let's see who's on with us real quick before I introduce Justin to everyone. Rasmic is on. Good morning, sir. Rasmic says 5x5. Thank you so much for letting me know my audio was going good. John, good morning, sir. I saw a roll with you and your jiu-jitsu coach this morning. Looking fine. Sir, he had that turtle. He turtled up on you. Will is on. Good morning, Will. Hope you had a good class with Mike out there in Montana. Dr. John Adine, good morning, sir. Coin number 1790. Jared, good morning, brother. David is on. Good morning. Sydney is on. 17 folks joining us live. Please like and share. As you see this morning, don't adjust your screen. It really is blacked out because we have Justin Carroll himself on this morning with us. Good morning, Justin.
Hey, Bruce. What's going on, man?
Not much, brother. Got 22 people on so far. Please like and share. You're not going to want to miss this one. John is on. He says, hi from Oklahoma, coin number 1919. And good morning, Jimmy. Jimmy is on, former FBI agent, coin number 1966. Stephen Washington, good morning, sir. It was great training with you out in Oklahoma recently. Mr. Washington, good morning. Glad to have you from Michigan. Please like and share. If you're new to Coffee with Rich, I will be your host and tour guide. My name is Rich Brown. I'm the co-host and co-founder of the American Warrior Show and the American Warrior Society, America's #1 self-defense podcast. And as you know, every Friday morning, I bring on a guest, and today I have an amazing guest for you this morning. It is my good friend, Justin Carroll. And before I let him introduce himself, Justin is a former Marine like myself. However, I was on the conventional side of the Marine Corps. Justin was with 3rd Reconnaissance. Then he went to 2nd Force Reconnaissance Company, and then he was an operator with MARSOC, actually one of the plank owners of MARSOC. Then he did some contracting, and I think that's enough of a bio, Justin. I'll let you take it from there.
Okay, cool, man. I think you pretty much covered it, Rich. Yeah, I was in the Marine Corps. I wasn't nearly as cool as I sound. I was actually started out as a radio operator and like kind of wormed my way into the Marine Corps Special Operations community there. But I did get to train up and deploy with the first Marine Special Operations company that deployed, which was pretty cool. Although that's a whole basket of snakes with the Fred Galvin incident and all that stuff. And after that, contracted for a couple of years with a couple other government agencies. And for the past 10 years, I've been a full-time instructor, although that's kind of changing right now. But yeah, that's what I do.
Thanks, man. And the reason that Justin is blacked out is Justin wrote some books on digital security and privacy, and Justin takes his privacy very seriously, and we respect that. Elke is on, says across the peak. Yeah, Justin and I had a podcast. We did about 40 or 50 episodes of Across the Peak. Had a lot of fun with that. But for those that listened to that show, and there were a lot of you, and Elke just brought it back. So thank you, Elke. Karen Allen, good morning. Let's see who else is on. Please like and share. Kevin is on, coin number 1334 here. We got 32 people joining us live. I'll take a quick share break, and then we'll jump back into the show with Justin. And if you are a coin member, let me know where you're from and what your coin number is. That would be pretty cool. Hey, thanks for sharing. If you're just joining from because somebody shared this for you, I'm Rich with the American Warrior Society, and I've got Justin Carroll on this morning. Justin, so how did you go from being in the community that you were in into the digital security and privacy space? How does that happen?
Man, I just got super interested in it. So when I was working overseas, I had the opportunity to get my identity stolen because I flew through Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris, France, en route to a Central Asian country. And while I was there, I got online, bought some stuff, didn't know anything. And by the time I got into country a couple days later, I had all these charges on my bank card and all this other stuff that I had to deal with from 5,000 miles away. And fortunately, there was a case officer there who was like, "Oh, I can show you some things," and she kind of showed me some VPN stuff and whatever, and that kind of sparked me up a little bit for I was pretty stoked on that. And then when I taught at the Special Operations Schoolhouse, I taught there for 5 years. We had the opportunity to go to some courses of that nature, some digital security and signature reduction type courses. So that kind of further fueled that fire. And then in the course that I taught at, which I'm not going to name here, but we did absolutely everything on computers, or not absolutely everything, but a lot of stuff on computers, people taking computers out into the field, and kind of realized man, if we lose a computer or people aren't doing things correctly, this could be really, really problematic. So that very first course we taught, I had 2 hours to teach digital security. And by the time I left that job 5 years later, I built that into a 2-day module right at the first of the course. So just kind of a personal interest that I really kind of went crazy with and ran with. Yeah.
And that's kind of when I met you. You were the co-host of, was it the Complete Privacy Security podcast?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's correct.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was so funny because I met you at a time where I was searching out, who knows how to create burner phones and use them, and why would a normal person even need something like that? And then you turned me on to all the tradecraft, and I just really nerded out on it. And one of the things that my co-host Mike Seekland and I took from Justin, besides a lot of the other lessons, was your 30-day challenge. Do you still have that up anywhere?
I don't have that up currently. It will be coming back soon, but it had just gotten so outdated, and man, finding the time to basically rebuild that from scratch. I will find the time. It is coming back, but it's not currently live anywhere.
Yeah, that's a really good tool, man. When you get it up, let me know, and I will shoot it back out into our listeners and followers, because what a great idea that was to put that out there. So what do you,
if I can say one thing, and this is to brag on you and Mike, there are a lot of people in the shooting community that are all about taking some shooting courses or going to the range or whatever. But man, you say, yeah, you should probably be protecting your online accounts, and eyes glaze over and they're like, it doesn't matter. They're going to get me. They're going to get me. And I think that's a really important part of full spectrum security is paying attention to that's a very, very likely threat. Being in a gunfight is very high risk, a bunch of really negative outcomes, but very low likelihood relatively. So I don't think, I think we kind of have to cover all the bases, and man, you and Mike actually walk the walk. Mike Seeklander has come to me with a number of questions hey man, I'm trying to set up a privacy.com card for this or whatever. And I'm like, oh wow, it's awesome that you two are actually walking the walk, man.
Well, I appreciate that, brother. And I think that's one of the things that, made us a kindred spirit between Mike and I and you, is that, we take care of our bodies. We do combatives and grappling, and we do shooting, and we do preparedness. You know what I'm saying? In the home, whether it's something as simple as checking your smoke alarms, or doing preventive maintenance on your vehicle, or doing dry fire practice. It all is part of that 360-degree security that you were mentioning. Let's see who else is on here. We got 35 folks on this morning. Robert says, morning, friends. Coin number 1401 from Northern Kentucky. Good morning, sir. And let's see who else is on. Will is on. Paul is on. Says, good morning, everyone. Please like and share. We're going to dive more into Justin's background and actually what he's doing right now. What are you up to these days, Justin?
So I decided to throw a really nice paying job away and start over from scratch. I didn't completely throw it away. COVID helped me out a little bit with that, with canceling all my travel. But currently, I am a student of paramedicine. I enrolled in an EMT class back in January. I lost my EMT certificate. I got it in 2005 and never did any kind of continuing education. So I re-enrolled in January in an EMT course, just thinking like, oh, I'll get this card. I'll have this card because kind of bugs me that I had it at one time and I can't say I'm an EMT anymore. And I actually got really, really into it and decided to go to paramedic school. So I'm a paramedic student right now.
Oh, cool. And you are also you also have a website right now. Tell us what Swift, Silent, and Deadly is all about.
SwiftSilentDeadly.com. There's no and in there, just SwiftSilentDeadly, all one word.com. I kind of stole that from the Marine Corps reconnaissance battalions, all of which their motto is Swift, Silent, Deadly. And the kind of the intent of that is like the Recon logo that you see up on my avatar right now is called the Jack. Recon Marines aren't really experts at anything. They're supposed to be the jacks of all trades of parachuting, diving, sniping. There's the little Pathfinder badge on that logo, all of that stuff. And I like, as anybody that listened to Across the Peak knows, I really value being well-rounded and not just being like super hyper-focused on one single thing. So that's kind of what Swift, Silent, Deadly is all about. It's kind of my place to rant about whatever I want, from security stuff to digital security stuff to gun stuff to Streamlight just sent me a bunch of flashlights I'm going to review to my last post I put up was about my favorite books about drugs. So it's a little bit of everything.
And you mentioned the Streamlight thing, and I'm going to help. I'm writing an article with Mr. Hemphill from Works, and because he's got a low light fight guide, and we're kind of collaborating on some stuff. What is the importance, as far as you see it, of like having that Streamlight flashlight or Surefire, whatever light you have? What is that role? I mean, does it play a big role, a small role? What do you think about that?
Man, I'll put it this way. If you put me, like if somebody controlled my life and said, you can either have a gun or you can have a flashlight and a can of pepper spray, that'd be a tough choice, but I would almost take the can of flashlight and pepper spray because I can take that. There's almost nowhere I can't take that outside of an airport or a courthouse or police station. There's almost nowhere I can't take those items. And a flashlight, being able to, it's an impact weapon. It's a psychological weapon when you shine somebody in the face. It's a physical weapon when you shine them in the face, and it constricts their pupils down. And just being able to have situational awareness and see what's going on around you, brother, there is never a time a flashlight's not in my pocket. Like sometimes I don't have a knife, sometimes I don't have pepper spray because where I'm going or whatever. And frequently now I don't have a gun going onto the college campus. I'm not going to say that. I can't have a gun on my person. So I can have pepper spray, but yeah, man, flashlight, super, super. Like I don't know what else to say about it. Like you should have a flashlight.
Yeah, I think being able to dominate that low visibility environment, and people that say that, well, it may not be that disorienting. I would say, there you go.
Yeah.
How was that? Especially when you don't know it's coming. And aside from that, it's got the crenulated bezel. So like you said, it's a great impact weapon. And, having an independent flashlight in your pockets, whether you carry a weapon mounted light or not, I think is important because you don't want to muzzle things with a light on it when you just want to see them. You don't want to muzzle the closets as you're searching for somebody in your house. So yeah, I think it's incredibly important. Let's see. We got some comments here. Thank you to the 30 or so folks that are joining us. Chad says, wow, Justin must have a face for radio since he's afraid to show it.
Chad knows I do have a face for radio.
Yeah. Let's see. Brett is on. Hey, Rich. Brett Parker, coin number 876 in Southern California, brother. Good morning, Brett. I hope you're doing well out there. behind enemy lines in California. So we talked a little bit about that. We talked a little bit about your time in the digital and privacy security, although I'm sure you're still maintaining all your capabilities there. And hopefully you'll get that 30-day challenge up, because I think it will help a lot of folks out there. God knows it helped me and my family. So you're in EMT right now. Let's go back to some of the things that you did in the military. And you wrote an article on Swift, Silent, Deadly about things you learned from the military. And can you talk about some of the things that you got out of your service?
Yeah, man, the military changed my life. And I full disclosure, I consulted with you on that article and asked for some of your thoughts on it. But lifelong friends, man, my two best friends in the world, the two people that I talk with almost on a daily basis, are people that I was in the military with. And I've worked in a lot of different places since I was in the military. I've been out longer than I was in, and none of those friendships I've made, I'm not going to say none of them, but very few of those friendships I've made outside of the military have quote unquote stuck around for very long after I left that job or whatever. That's a huge thing. I think that shared hardship of being, deploying overseas, or just being in a kind of crappy situation with someone kind of creates, it doesn't make you instant friends with everybody, but it creates a situation where friendships can really thrive and really take off. That was a big thing. The military exposed me to, let me travel, which was the thing I always wanted to do, but it exposed me to a whole wide world of like different people and different like different lifestyles and different I've been all over the freaking world with the military, and that's not a thing I would have had as a poor kid growing up in the South. Man, I don't remember what else was on that article. It just being in the military is a little bit of a marker. I can honestly, none of my career would have been where it has been had it not been for military experience, because that was kind of an instant connection with people. There's also a lot of bad stuff about the military as well, but
let's talk about some of the bad stuff, Justin.
Well, you don't really have any, to a great extent, you don't have much control over your life. The leader, and I want to be clear, when I talk about leaders, there are some phenomenal leaders in the military. I personally know people who, as captains or as master sergeants, push people out of the way to run into a room full of gunfire to pull one of their guys out. They're phenomenal leaders that have done things that I have seen, but almost still cannot believe. But you're at the mercy of whoever gets put in charge of that platoon, that company, whatever. And sometimes it's not that fantastic leader, or sometimes it is that fantastic leader who is not in a position to thrive because you're just in garrison, marking time, So there's double jeopardy in the military. You can be convicted of something out in town and then get slammed for it in the military when you get back. It's not a perfect world. I think it boils down to, it's a human-run institution. So you have the same problems that you have with humans anywhere. It's just humans operating under a very specific set of the UCMJ, the Uniform Code of Military Justice, just this very specific set of rules that maybe you don't quite have in the civilian world. But, and then there's dumb stuff like I'm dealing with now. I'm having to wear knee braces. I wear hearing aids because no one really, and also I can't put this on everybody else, because you're a dumb 19, 20, 21-year-old and you're like, I'm going to live forever. I don't, there's no concept of taking care of your body for the future. And if you do try to go to medical, everyone, I don't know, it's not the most encouraged thing in the world to go take care of yourself.
No, it's not. Matter of fact, it's the probably the opposite. Yeah. Like, the more you punish your body, like, oh yeah, he's a stud, man. He's just tearing it up. Yeah, tearing it up. All right.
Yeah. Well, and as you know, I did a ruck run earlier this week, and man, that is probably the worst thing for your body.
Oh yeah. I remember when I got out of the Marine Corps the first time back in 1995, I had to have a chest X-ray. And they put the x-ray up there, and the doctor said, okay, you can go. Everything's checked out, blah, blah, blah. And as I'm walking down the hallway, I see the x-ray on the wall, and I'm like, man, this guy's back is jacked up. And I'm no radiologist. I'm just walking in the hallway. And as I look down, I see my name at the bottom of it. So I grabbed the nurse. I'm like, hey, can I see the doctor again? I was like, that's my back. He's like, oh yeah, you didn't know it was that messed up? I'm like, no, I had no idea. He's like, yeah. And then, it's crazy. All right, let's see who's on here, Justin. We got some folks chiming in. If you have a question for Justin, here's your opportunity. Not many people get this opportunity to ask the man himself a question, but here we go. I'm going to throw it out to you. Donald says, I stay out of gun-free zones, especially these days. Yeah, it's I don't necessarily stay out of them. I mean, if I can avoid them, I will. But at the same time, I'm going to go where I want to go when I want to go there, and I'll prepare accordingly. It's one of those things, Donald, and I think you would agree with me. We are the weapon system. Everything else is a tool. So whatever tools I can legally carry into that zone, I will. I'll give you an example. And Justin went to Ireland, I think, a year or so ago, and he can attest to this. When I got off of the airplane, I took a picture of it. There was a big poster that says no offensive weapons allowed. And it had, like batons, pepper spray, knives, guns, it lists all this list. And I look on there and I go, okay, cool, man. There's no, I don't see shoestrings on there, because if I have to take these shoelaces out of my boots and strangle somebody with them, I'm going to do it. So don't think because you've disarmed me that I'm suddenly harmless. That's not the case, especially if you train your mind and that 360-degree type thing that Justin mentioned ago. Would you agree with that, Justin?
Absolutely, man. And I try to. If I've got two doors I can go in to accomplish the same thing, and one of them allows guns and one doesn't, I'll go in the one that allows guns. But also, I don't necessarily have the luxury of completely avoiding. Like, I have to go on the college campus, and that's a no-go. And it's not worth risking my freedom and my ability to own guns in the future to carry a gun on that campus, especially right now, because almost no one's there. It's a tumbleweeds blowing through the parking lot.
Yeah, it would be. I agree with you, man. We did some work last year for some federal agents, and they were in a state that does not allow firearms pretty much, and didn't recognize my Tennessee permit. And the leading agent says, hey, man, this is what some other folks that come up here and train us do. There's some former tier 1 guys. They just carry and do whatever the hell they're going to do, and they'll suffer they'll take the chance. I'm like, no, man, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to risk my freedom for that. I'll plan accordingly with what I can carry, like a flashlight and pepper spray. Gene says, coin number 70 from Iowa, just checking in. Robert Thornberry says, good morning, Mr. Brown. Coin number 1973. Jared said, let's see here. I use my flashlight several times each day. Same here, brother. I mean, once you start carrying one in your pocket, you figure out you use it a lot more than you think you would. And another thing is, well, people say, well, I can just use the flashlight on my phone. Why do I need a flashlight? Justin, I'll ask you that question. Is it necessary to carry something other than just the flashlight on your phone?
I think so. So this is probably atypical. So I volunteer with a search and rescue team where I live, and we have had a very, very busy summer. And we had a mission about 2 weeks ago, 8 o'clock on a Sunday night. The call goes out, and I didn't get home until 8 o'clock on Monday morning. It was an all-nighter, like helicopters landed, like it was the whole enchilada. And I'm just thrown into this situation of like, yeah, you guys are going in the woods, pack up, because here you go. And we had been told we were kind of showing up for a different role. So, but my preparedness is the same regardless. I grab the same bag, I take the same things. And if all I would have had was my phone flashlight, man, that would have been a rough night, because we stepped off into the woods at 11 o'clock at night. And everybody's not on a SAR team, I get that. But if the power goes out, if you have to move for some reason, if you have to move yourself via the Boot Leather Express, having a flashlight on you is pretty dang important. And I also wanted my phone to be not run my battery down. And your flashlight's more intense. It's a dedicated tool rather than my phone's fine as a backup for my flashlight, but it's not a replacement for it. And a flashlight's a super easy thing to carry. The little AAA stream lights are, you know what I'm talking, the micro stream, I think it's called. They're so small and easy to carry. Not a great reason not to carry one.
And I may need to be on my phone and using flashlight at the same time, so you can't do that. Brett says, use my flashlight often. The main thing is I have it on me when needed. If you're always ready, you never have to get ready. I love that saying. John Horner is on coin number 912. Tammy, good morning. I miss your face, Tammy. Let's see. John says 800 milligrams of Motrin fixes everything.
It fixes everything except stomach gastritis. So
yeah. It can often induce stomach gastritis.
Yeah. Ask me how I know.
Yeah. Same here. Let's see here. Donald says, I remember when I was a super soldier until I got cancer. I feel you, brother. Sydney says, sometimes the military demotivates you. U.S. Army from 1991 to 1993. Yes, it does. Joseph says, good morning from Vermont, gents. Good morning, sir. Will says, how important are VPNs, computer and smartphones? Can you help Will with that question about VPNs?
Yeah, I think they're pretty important. So, like kind of just from a very practical standpoint of protecting my financial information, I'm pursuing this EMT, EMS, paramedic thing, and I was just applying for a job yesterday, and I was like, man, I don't know if I want to apply with this agency because their form that you had to fill out online was completely in the open, completely unencrypted, and that kind of bothers me. Like, at least with a VPN, I have some protection there. And the example I talked about earlier of getting my financial information stolen in France would not have happened if I'd used a VPN. So that's the real practical down and dirty. Like, if you want to protect your financial information, your logins and passwords and stuff like that, use a VPN. The ideological thing is, I believe we should. I believe being a adversarial to the state in respect to gun ownership and consent of the government type thing. Like, I don't think we should just hand the government everything of like, yeah, I've been browsing for Glock 17 mags for the last 4 hours. I probably own a Glock 17. So I kind of think from that standpoint of limiting what the government can just easily access, because open source intelligence includes things that the government can go buy. So all these companies that we're sharing information with, and I've worked in that space. I can't get into specific clients, but I've I've taught massive programs for some of these organizations. Like, some of the forums that gun people are on are like, they're just a direct stream of, like, I can look up any keyword, any user, any whatever. And because the government's not doing this, because it's done by a private company, it's perfectly legal, and the government can purchase access to that. So I'm not anti-government, I'm not anti-cop, I'm not anti-military, anti-intelligence community, but I'm also extremely pro-citizen. So for that reason, I'm all about that. So I think VPNs are very, very important. I use one on my phone and on my computer. It's the same one I use, Proton VPN. So I recommended private internet access for a long time. They got acquired last year by a company with ties to some foreign intelligence activities. And Proton VPN, I used because I also pay for Proton Mail, so it's easy just to package those two things. And I bought my girlfriend Kai a 2-year subscription to Proton Mail and Proton VPN. So we're like just kind of on the Proton Mail, Proton VPN program right now. I see I'm skipping ahead. I'm doing your job. I see Chad asks either pay or free ones. I'd really stay away from free VPNs. That's a very, very expensive service to monetize. It's not like I'm just writing one little piece of software and throwing it out there. I have to support bandwidth for all those servers, for all those whatever. So it's a very, very costly service to run. I would always pay for a VPN. And then Mike says, so dump PIA. Here's the thing. I stuck with PIA until my subscription ran out. I don't know. I'm not completely a purist on any of this. Like, I understand there's financial constraints and all that. Actually, my PIA subscription just died last month because I just let it run out. If that answers. And sorry, Rich, I'm skipping ahead.
That's okay. Before you go any further, did you see Bob's comment? If someone wanted to know more about digital security, are there any books you would recommend?
Yes. So I have a book coming out. It's actually on Amazon right now. I don't recommend you go buy it because I've got one more revision that I have to do. It's like littered with typos, and I put it up to try to get an author copy so I could go through the hard copy and do the typos, like proof it. But it went live. So it's called Digital Self-Defense. I recommend you wait a few weeks before you go buy that. Also, Michael Basil, that I used to work with on the Complete Privacy and Security podcast, is very, very knowledgeable. I will tell you, his stuff is very like, you have to go all in, or like, he very much has the attitude of like, if you're not doing 100% of it, you're doing 0% of it, which I don't necessarily agree with. I think you can get a lot of benefit without burning your entire life down. Other than that, I'd have a hard time recommending much. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. Looks like our old pal, Mr. Mike Seeklander's on. Please like and share. We've got 45 viewers on with us this morning. Still a lot to cover with Justin. I'm going to give you just a moment to take a quick share break, and please sip on your coffee if you're joining us. And if you are joining us, if you have a question for Justin, throw them out there. Justin's one of the rare breed of people that can shoot you in the face and then treat your wound. So if you have anything to ask, this is your chance to do it, folks. It may not come around again. I had to beg, borrow, and steal to get him on the phone. No, I'm just kidding. Justin was really generous with his time this morning. Okay. All right. Thank you. If you're just joining us because somebody shared this and you saw some handsome fella in a ball cap and you decided to jump on, well, thank you. Welcome aboard. We have Justin Carroll on with us this morning, and we're going to get to some questions here. Let's see. Sydney would like to know, what do you carry in your emergency medical kit? And I know you carry a lot of stuff, but maybe some of the basics that have to be in there.
So I carry tourniquet. I'm all about a tourniquet. I'm kind of, I get a little bit frustrated with the gospel of the tourniquet. Like, carry tourniquet, you're good. Like, there's a hyper focus on the tourniquet because it's an easy answer. The problem is it only treats one very, very specific thing, and that's uncontrolled extremity hemorrhage. Your extremities are maybe hit in a gunfight or a knife fight or a car accident or whatever, but also there's your entire torso. I think probably at least as important as a tourniquet is a chest seal. I like the hyphen vents, and I like to carry two of those, one for the front, one for the back, and that's kind of the I guess the quick down and dirty algorithm for TCCC is, if it's an extremity, put a tourniquet on it. If it's one of those inguinal spaces, like your hyphemorals or your brachial area in your axial area in your armpit, put QuikClot in it. If it's your torso, put a sticker on it. So those chest seals are the stickers. Those keep blood in, they keep air out. They do a pretty good job. I didn't have a lot of faith in them for a long time. So I've kind of seen some other things and seen what they can do. And your torso is probably really, really likely to be struck by any kind of gunfire or whatever. So a tourniquet, actually I have two tourniquets because I carry this thing in a pack. It's not on my person. Two tourniquets, and those are CAT Gen 7 tourniquets. I recently upgraded all my tourniquets because the ones I had were from 10 years ago, and like, who knows what they've been through and how much sun they've been exposed to. UV exposure is one thing that kind of ruins tourniquets, can weaken the windlass and everything else. Also, another thing on tourniquets, if you're buying them, buy them from North American Rescue or Chinook Rescue or whatever. Don't buy them on Amazon because there is a huge counterfeit tourniquet market out there. So two tourniquets. I carry hemostatic agent, which is like your QuikClot type stuff. And I carry hemostatic gauze. It's gauze that's impregnated with, I think it's actually impregnated with chitosan, which is made from shellfish, like shrimp shells, which will not trigger a shellfish allergy. But basically that gauze is, Rich, I don't know if you remember QuikClot, but I've done QuikClot on pigs in live tissue labs. And basically, you had to pack that wound with gauze, put super hard direct pressure on it for about 5 minutes, and then in about 1 second, pull that gauze out and dump the QuikClot in before that wound was just flooded with blood again. It was because you got to get it right there down next to that vessel that's ruptured. Very, very difficult thing to do with the powder. So getting the pushing that gauze down into the wound is actually much easier than getting that powdered substance or whatever down there. So either the Celox, which comes in little like a whole little packet you shove down in there, or gauze impregnated with Quick Clot or Celox, or Chido gauze. It's the chitosan-based gauze. What else? A decompression needle, which I don't recommend for everyone, but the ability to decompress a tension pneumothorax, and then just some random gauze, 4x4s, and a couple of rolls of Curlex just to pack a bleeder.
And obviously latex gauze. And what about shears?
I do have a set of mini trauma shears, actually a couple other airway things. I do have a set of mini trauma shears. I do have a nasopharyngeal airway, which is super easy to have, super easy to use. But none of this stuff really matters without training. I wouldn't recommend. I would seek training before I seek equipment.
Yeah, I agree. All right, thanks for the answer. Karen would like to know, what flashlight is your favorite?
So the Phoenix LD12, it's a AA flashlight. It has like 4 modes on it that are not controlled from the tail switch. So I can leave it in high mode, and then if I'm walking on that trail for 2.5 hours in the middle of the night, I can bump it down to low and extend my battery life out, not blind everyone around me and all that stuff. And actually, all of these things we've talked about, the flashlight, the first aid kit, there's articles on all those things over at Swift Silent Deadly. Okay, great. And if you're just joining us, Swift Silent Deadly is Justin's blog. Please check him out there at Swift Silent Deadly. Brian is on. Good morning from Tampa. Good morning, sir. Chad says, just since you mentioned VPN being a good thing, can you tell us either pay or download? You already talked about that. It says, mind is first line of self-defense, whatever tool you have in your hands. John says that. Yep. Robert says, Streamlight ProTac goes everywhere with me. Easy to carry. Couldn't tell you how many times I use it a day. Yeah, spot on here. Jesse Ross says, what is your take on the rollout of 5G? Well, what are you going to do? I mean, it's happening. We're like, I don't know. I think it's probably going to be bad, but yeah. But what can we do? Right. John says, Justin, are you an active paramedic? No, sir, I am not. And Greg, my buddy, was in 2nd Recon. He says, what years was Justin with Recon? I was with 3rd Reconnaissance Battalion in 2002, 2003, and I moved over to 2nd Force in January of 2004. I was over there until they deactivated, and then 2nd Marine Special Operations Battalion stood up, and I was there until I got out in 2008. Yeah. And Greg was probably, I believe, Greg, you were there, 2nd Recon Battalion during, 89 to early 90s? We did a deployment together. Nice. David is on, says, good morning. Good morning, David. Okay, 45 folks join us. We got a few more minutes here with Justin. So as far as when it comes to all of your interests, I mean, I know that your physical security is very important to you, and I would ask you to give us some tips on things we can do that the listener viewer can do to help harden their physical structure. We talked a little bit about digital security. We talked a little bit about what you're doing right now with being an EMT and working toward getting your paramedics license, your search and rescue that you're doing now. What aren't you doing, bro? I don't know, man. You were a craft brewer there for a while. I mean, yeah, we're still brewing. We're still got a huge garden. We've got 20 chickens, which we're about to have. We're still going to have 20, but some of them are going to be in the freezer. So yeah, a little bit of everything, man. This year, I've kind of shifted focus. Like I kind of bounce around a little bit between interests. I'm still doing daily dry practice every day this year. I've missed 4 days this entire calendar year. I'm still going to the range, like probably scaled back to about once a month. and putting a lot more energy into physical fitness this year, and obviously a lot of like all my training time and energy into medical this year. So
talk to me about dry practice, Justin. What's I know, because you were doing, I think you were blogging about it there for a while. What is the emphasis on that?
So I still am. So you guys have had John Hearn on the podcast, and I had the good fortune of interviewing John Hearn several years ago for an article I was writing about dry practice. And John is kind of a master of understanding how adults learn, how the brain remembers information and all that stuff. So he probably spent 3 hours on the phone with me. He was extremely generous with his time. And he told me some stuff that really stuck with me. And like a few of those things are, the more recently you have done a thing, the more important your brain perceives it to be. So the more it's kind of stacked toward the top of things your brain could access at any given time. So if you spent 20 years at Delta Force and you don't touch a gun for 20 years, you'll still be able to recall that skill, but it's not at the top of the stack of things that your brain is going to recall. If you dry practice every single day, it's called Recency of Experience. You've done it very, very recently, so it's very, very near the top of the stack. If you do a thing, like I'm sure we all know guys that'll go out west somewhere to a 2-week badass shooting course once a year, 5,000 rounds of 5.56, and then come back and not touch a gun for a year. And a year later, they're basically exactly where they started at. They've lost all that skill. So you have to also repeat that skill over time. And it's not just a massive amount of time right up front. It's that time spread out over an amount of time, over a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever it may be. So that builds toward this point of really, really heavy myelinization, which protects you in several ways. It makes that skill much more easily recalled. It makes it much more stable. So it prevents like drift in the skill. I'm sure, if you took a surfing lesson and then went out and, started surfing on your own every day without someone watching you, your skill would probably drift a little bit and you would start to add your own little funk to it here and there. It prevents that skill from drifting. It protects it from degradation. So things that can degrade skill are extreme stress. The more heavily myelinated it is, the less that skill will degrade. The longer you go without having access to that skill. So the CAG operator that hasn't touched a gun in 20 years, he's mastered that. It's so heavily myelinated, he will never degrade past a certain point. And I think John said that point's about 80% of proficiency. Like he could never touch a gun again for 50 years, and he'll never drop below about 80% of his peak competency.
Wow.
So that's like, I'm not really trying to take a 16th of a second off my reload or whatever. I'm trying to maintain the skill. I'm trying to maintain recency of experience. I'm trying to build that super heavy myelinization. So to protect me from degradation under extreme stress, or in the event I can't practice my gun for a while. So that's kind of the impetus behind that. My goal is 10 minutes a day. I draw, again, based on what John said, I practice most likely skills the most. So if you use your firearm, there is a 100% chance you will have to get it out of the holster. So do that every single day. There is a much, much smaller chance that you will have to clear malfunctions, but you should practice them because they're very complex sets of motions, like especially for like a double feed or a failure to extract or something like that. Like you guys know, it's a very complex motion. Those are also things that are really prone to degradation. So I do practice malfunctions, but I do it far less frequently than I practice the draw stroke, the presentation, just because getting my gun out of my holster is, if I need to employ my firearm, there's a 100% chance I will need that skill. Does that make sense? No,
totally, man. That was a great, I couldn't have said it better myself. Matter of fact, I could not have said that better. Let's see who's on here. Brett says develop a ritual. And Brett was a police officer out there in Southern California for quite a while. John Morris says, Justin, good luck on getting your paramedic. I have been one for 36 years. Go for tactical paramedic class after. I enjoy that side of it. What is your intent with the training that you're getting right now, Justin?
So our EMS agency in our county has a special operations team that is, I think everyone on it is a tactical paramedic. Everyone on it is they participate in like there's a test to be on it. You got to do like a 45-pound ruck march, like in a set amount of time. And there's a physical element to it that you got to pass. And you got to have some specific classes like tactical paramedic. And that's, man, my intent is absolutely to dominate that particular team within the EMS agency. If I don't know how long I intend to work EMS, but I am hungry for this experience. I really, really want this experience, and tactical is definitely part of that. Also, like getting back into teaching, I think 2 weeks from now, I'll be taking my CPR instructor class, and then stop the bleed instructor shortly after that, and with the goal of being a paramedic instructor within a few years from now. So instructions, it's a thing I love. I love listening to you and Mike talk about the FIDC the other day. So yeah, the tactical thing, that's a huge goal, but also instructing. I heard you and Mike address this. I always self-deprecatingly joke that those that can't teach, or those that can't do, teach. So that's why I'm a teacher. But you also have to be able to do a little bit. And yeah, thank you, John. Thank you for your service. Thank you for, thanks for being out there on the road every day.
Yeah, and I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier. I don't remember how you phrased it, Justin, but it was almost like the cult of the tourniquet, something along those lines. And I know that when I put my battle belt together based on an experience I had here on the farm last year, I think I sent you photos of it. I'm like, what am I missing? What am I, is this right? Is it wrong? And one of the things you're like, hey man, you got a tourniquet, but that may not be what you really need. And you explained to me a little bit about why the tourniquet might be the right thing for the warfighter, but maybe the wrong thing for the CCW guy or gal. Can you talk a little bit about that, if you remember that conversation?
So yeah, I'm like, I don't really feel like I have the credentials to talk about this, but I'm pretty involved with people that teach TCCC. I'm very into like the military. That's the first time I went to EMT was in the military. My unit had a really good track record of getting people a lot of medical training, a lot of live tissue labs, a lot of.
Can you explain a live tissue lab, Justin, for those that aren't familiar with that, as well as TCCC?
So in a live tissue lab, we used a company called OEMS, Deployment Medicine, Inc. And I don't actually know if they're still around, but they would come out, they would buy a bunch of pigs. An actual physician would be out there and anesthetize this pig. So it's not like a live pig feeling all this pain. It's, I don't know, they've got it on a ketamine drip or whatever. It's this anesthetized pig, and they would very surgically go through and inflict insults to this pig, be it like the high femoral bleed or whatever. I'm trying to think of what else. I have cracked a pig. I have done a needle decompression on a pig. I have treated those high femoral bleeds on a pig. So basically, you're out there with an emergency medical physician or a soft medic. Actually, almost everyone out there was a doctor, and they would, they would injure this pig in some way, and it's on you to take care of it. And I'll never forget the first time I did a tourniquet or a quick clot on a pig. He's like, "Are you ready?" And we're sitting there watching this femoral artery inside this pig's leg, like just watching this thing pulse. And he just takes his scalpel and nicks it, and man, blood goes shooting everywhere. And I actually lost that pig. But that's what a live tissue lab is. So my unit was very, very good. I went to EMT between my first and second deployments, and we did TCCC at least once before every deployment, sometimes a couple times, and a live tissue lab before every deployment. And then all of our medics were special amphibious reconnaissance corpsmen, and most of them had been to either the 18 Delta short course or the long course. So like extremely qualified medical personnel there that were happy to share their information with us. So that being said, I've always had a keen interest in the military TCCC type medicine. And back to your original question, Rich, I've veered all over the place. Tourniquets have saved tons of lives on the battlefield because guys are wearing body armor and helmets. So just the incidence of injury to the torso has significantly lessened, meaning if you are injured, it's probably that extremity, or good chance, like better chance. It's some sort of extremity. And man, if you look at the statistics from like World War II, Korea, Vietnam, like the number of people that bled out from extremity wounds is insane. And it's a very, very simple fix. Throw a tourniquet on it. And as you know, for a long time, were you a Boy Scout? You were, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like tourniquets were like, I know they taught first aid in Boy Scouts. Tourniquets were the last resort, the tool of last resort. And now, like just through my paramedic class, it's like, yeah, if you got something and it doesn't stop bleeding, put a tourniquet on it. Not a huge deal. And you know, we've gotten that from the medical side, but also from the like realizing, hey, yeah, we have people in surgery sometimes for 8 hours with a tourniquet on a limb, and they don't have to have their limb amputated. So tourniquet is a wonderful tool, and I'm not trying to downplay it, but also I don't want to overlook everything else. I'm not wearing body armor as a civilian. I want something, and you know, I'm not carrying everything on my person, but I want something to be able to address that too. Perfect world, you know, a roll of some sort of quick clot impregnated gauze, a tourniquet, and a couple chest seals would be ideal. But I know that gets tough to carry. Like I'm carrying too much crap in my pockets already, so I get it.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Any questions for Justin? I want to be respectful of his time. We've had him on now for 50 minutes. Wow. Thank you, brother. I appreciate your time this morning. Anybody have any questions for Justin? I'm going to throw it out there.
So I'm looking up. Elke said, did I marry my girlfriend? No, I did not.
And there we go.
She's still my girlfriend. So
yes, she is. 54 folks joining us this morning. We're speaking with Justin Carroll, former Force Reconnaissance Marine, MARSOC operator, EMT extraordinaire. Julie says, good morning. Good morning, Julie. Any questions for Justin before we let him go? Can we talk about physical security a little bit? What are just a couple of things that the average person could do to make them a little bit harder in their home?
So here's the thing. I really screwed up. So at my house, we throw tomahawks. Like that's our outdoor, like Kai and I have coffee and tomahawks in the morning.
Love it.
So I realized that right outside our door on our back porch, right next to this huge piece of glass, I've got 6 tomahawks laying there. And I'm like, probably a pretty good tool if you wanted to get in my house to just start hacking at the door or start banging that glass in. So I did a big look around the house yesterday and said, what else do I have laying around here that could someone use to get into my home? So like that super low hanging fruit stuff, kind of cleaning up the axes and the hammers and the ladders. Like if you've got second story windows, most of us don't protect those second story windows as much as the first. So if you've got that ladder leaning up against the house, it's, you know, probably want to put that thing in the garage or whatever. Lock your doors, lock your damn doors, man. My sister lives here in town, and last week they were out of town, asked me to go over and take care of their dogs. And I put the locks on their house because I don't know, it was a different key in every damn lock. I went over and like squared everything away. It's all one key now, and all like those clunky systems drive me nuts. So anyway, I went over there and they had their door handles locked and not their deadbolts. And it's like, man, it takes 2 more seconds to lock that deadbolt that actually does something versus just this door knob, this locking knob. So lock your doors, use the deadbolts. If you don't have a deadbolt, install a deadbolt. That's a huge, huge thing. Turn some lights on. Like, you know, it's kind of tough for us. We live out here in the middle of freaking nowhere. So even if we got all the light in the world, no one's really going to see what's going, like privacy or seclusion is kind of a 2-edged sword in that way. There's no one really keeping an eye on our place because we're kind of out here. Don't leave valuables visible from inside your house. Like just the way our house is situated, if I leave my laptop laying on the coffee table, man, you're looking at it. No matter which door you come from, you're just seeing that MacBook sitting there. And a lot of these break-ins are just people that are spending $100 for a gram of meth and go through 3 or 4 grams a day, and they've got to come up with some money every day to feed that habit. Like that's where a big percentage of your break-ins come in, and just reducing that low likelihood or that high likelihood, low impact kind of thing is probably pretty important. What else? Alarm systems. Alarm systems are awesome, but if you use one, actually arm it. I know quite a few people that pay for an alarm system. And they're like, yeah, we had a false alarm about a year ago, and we haven't really turned it on since. Get your system adjusted correctly and use it. Make sure your window is closed. In the summertime, we try not to run the air conditioner at all. Like I'm all about, and sometimes it gets pretty warm here. I'm all about being comfortable, being a little uncomfortable. And so we leave all the windows in the house open. But like before we leave, we close all the windows, and we have dogs, which I kind of consider my early warning system. If somebody wants to come in here while we're here, I don't have any illusions that our dogs are going to be the only protection measure we need. Dogs, contrary to popular belief, actually need to be trained to be defensive. Like you can't take a human and be like, he's never been in a fight before, but he's going to protect me. Same thing with your dog. Like your dog's got to be trained for that thing, but at least they will be early warning. They bark at their early warning for freaking everything. So, what else? So lock your doors, get a deadbolt. Don't rely just on that locking knob set. Lock your damn doors and windows when you leave the house. Remove those tools outside. And it's like, we're kind of you've seen our place, Rich. Like we do a lot of work outside. We've got a lot of tools laying around. Dogs understand that they may be an early warning system. And if they're trained, they may actually be an awesome line of defense. But recognize your dog for what it is and be honest about it. Like I know I have a German Shepherd, I have a Husky, and I have a Lab. The German Shepherd might do something. She's done some bite work, but I also know it's been a long time, and I'm not betting the farm on her. Just I'm not betting everything on her. But I have the early warning there from that. What else, Rich?
Okay, we'll let this be kind of the last question here. Thank you for all the questions that wrote in. Julie's got some really good thoughts here that she's putting out. But this is probably a softball question. Well, Bruce says, sorry, I was late. Is this Justin, AKA the revolver guy? Bruce would like to know.
Yeah, this is me.
The revolver guy. And check Justin out there as well. Do you want to give them that website as well, Justin?
Revolverguy.com. And I'm just a revolver guy. I'm definitely not the revolver guy.
Let's see. I believe it was, let's see, who asked the question? I can't find it now. But he says, before I give you the question, your point about the tomahawks outside the door, it reminded me, Ted Bundy, when he killed those girls in the sorority, he just walked up. They had a pile of wood sitting next to the door.
Oh, firewood, yeah.
Yeah, he grabbed a couple of pieces of firewood, went in there and beat 2 girls to death and almost killed 2 other ones. So think about what's outside your door. Think about, look at your exterior as if you were a predator. How would you get in and what would you do? But the question was, what do you carry as far as EDC? Do you mind going into what is your everyday carry, Justin?
Yeah. So I'm just going to go around my belt here. All right. So my handgun is a compact 9mm 1911. I carry an 8-round magazine in there, and I carry a spare 9-round magazine. I carry a can of pepper spray. Let's see, knife, Spyderco pocket knife, an iPhone, and then the other pocket, a flashlight, keys, and a little fire starter that I've had in my pocket for about 20 years now. So I've never used it, but I'm kind of reticent to take it out just because it's been in there so long. And then my wallet. And as far as on my body, that and a chest seal in my other back pocket, that is it. I don't carry a tourniquet on my person. I'm kind of maxed out. Like I'm a pretty slim guy. I'm kind of maxed out on real estate on my person. And sometimes that gets scaled down. Sometimes it gets scaled up depending on what I'm doing or whatever.
Sweet, brother.
Also, a plug to one of your sponsors, Precision Holsters, that Ultra Appendix holster.
Yes.
I'm all about it.
Yeah, same here, brother. Use it every single day. All right. Well, you plugged one sponsor. Let me plug another. I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but wearing Appalachian Standard gear this morning. My good friend Jesse Ross, we're in the Marine Corps together. Check out his CBD products. If you have joint issues like I do, or you want to sleep better cognitive performance, I use a 3,000 milligram every night, take about a half a dropper full, and I get amazing, vivid, lucid dreams, sleep like a baby. And I think it's helped me with my cognitive performance, but I know it's helped me with my joints. So check out Appalachian Standard. I've got a link in there for you. 15% all your orders, 15% off for watching Coffee with Rich. Justin, anything else before I let you go, my friend?
No, man. Thanks so much for having me on, and anytime, man.
Well, same here, man. I'm honored to have you on the show. Yeah, you bring a little bit of class and dignity to Coffee with Rich.
And holy crap, thanks to all the people. I can't believe how many people were on this. So that's awesome.
Yeah, thanks, folks, for joining us. And remember, the fight is coming. Be ready.